Welcome, everybody, to Everyday Ethics. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz, with our lovely co-host, Persephone. I almost forgot what it was, co-host, guest, whatever, but you're the co-host to the show. Today, we'll be
Random
discussing
person.
mental hygiene, but before we get to that, just a friendly reminder about super chats and super stickers that are always so very, very appreciated. So, Persephone, what actually got me thinking about this topic, I used to engage in regular mental hygiene when I was incarcerated. I knew it was something that I had to do. So I would engage in, you know, I'm not a big meditator in the sense of, or anything like that, but just laying back and letting my mind relax, journaling, figuring out, what's stressing me out. But I noticed that since I've been out of prison, I haven't been doing that. And I think I think I need to start because it's contributing, I believe, to stress, to anxiety, to the impatience that I mentioned the other day. Um, hey, Race. So I sent you these articles and the definition. I didn't find the APA Dictionary of Psychology very helpful because this talked about a general approach aimed at maintaining mental health and preventing mental disorder through such means as educational programs, promotion of a stable emotional and family life, prophylactic and early treatment services, and public health measures. And it says the term's not widely used, but the articles I found to be very they were nice. Sorry, Danny, I forgot to invite you. I'm running around like a chicken with its head cut off. But anyways,
You,
Persephone, what say
you
you?
you need to practice more mental hygiene if you're
I
running around like
do.
a chicken with your head cut off. I liked the articles somewhat, but I also felt like some of what they said was a bit. I didn't necessarily agree with all of it. Like, be more trusting. I agree that that can be good advice if you're like a person who never trusts anybody. Thank you, Kathy. If you're the type of person who doesn't trust anybody to do anything ever, then okay, cool, work on being more trusting, but trust the right people. Make sure that your judgment of whether or not a person is trustworthy is based on reality and not just on this idea that, I need to be more trusting. Um
I agree with you that in general, I think for people that are not trusting, they need to learn to trust more. And that, by the way, doesn't mean handing over your, your computer codes or your passwords or your money to people that you don't know or anything like that. Um, but this guy once told me, I was at a video rental store years ago, 30 years ago or so, maybe a little bit more. And he told me that his entire business was based on trust. That if people decided not to return videos, for instance, that he couldn't operate his store because there's really nothing he could do. And I think about all the times that I trust people in life and you don't even realize it. I go to say McDonald's and I order a cheeseburger, fries. I'm trusting that there's not going to be poison in this, that that at any number of restaurants you go to, you're dealing with that. When you go out to a movie, you're trusting that the people in the movie theater aren't going to shoot you or. So we do generally trust people. And I think for people with real trust issues, this is good advice. But I agree that, as what you're trusting people with gets more and more important, you need to be more and more selective with whom you trust.
yeah. But that also sort of ties in with one of the other things that they said, which was sort of control your negative thoughts. Um, because that also has to do with trust. Because if you have no trust in life, in the people around you, in the general public or the people that you surround yourself with, or, clients, people you work with, if you have no trust, then I think that's also a sign of more like negative thoughts, because then you're thinking that something bad is going to happen, that someone is going to betray you, or so. I mean, I think those two things tie together. And I have a friend who is generally not very trusting and simultaneously has a lot of negative thoughts. And yeah, it's just that's something that you need to learn how to
Did you
control.
just zone out? Did you just pull a Liebowitz?
I was just trying to figure out, like, I told this little anecdote and I was like, don't do that, but that seemed like a useless thing to say.
Yeah, so the negative thinking, if you most people, I think life is a mixed bag. You know, there's good things happen, bad things happen, and we get to choose which we're going to focus on. And I think that, you know, we magnify things out of proportion. The bad, we underemphasize the good. We engage in mind reading. We do all types of things that are harmful in this endeavor. And that's what I think when they're talking about negative thinking, that is what they're talking about. So I think that you need to learn how to, because they even talk about, you don't want to just suppress your thinking and suppress your feelings, but we need to learn how to, what's the word I'm looking for? Modulate them, to alter our thinking, to focus on the more positive things in our lives, and to, you know, accentuate the good, I guess is what I'm trying to say. One of the things that this one article talks about is building a calmer brain. And I like this very much. And it says that in 2002, people had an attention span of 12 seconds on average. By 2015, this is shortened to 8 seconds. But my dog is really hounding me right now for attention. This would be a good time to have the wireless mic, because then I could just pick her up and she wouldn't be kicking the wires and whatnot. But anyways, so talks about neuroplasticity, how we can actually train our brains. And that's true. There's very good books out there. Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, The Brain That Changes Itself, and probably an abundance of other ones that I'm unaware of. And that's very, I believe, helpful. We do need to have calm brains. My mind is constantly racing. And it's good for me to just slow down and stop with that, you know, sort of just one thing to the next, the chicken with the head cut off thing that I just mentioned.
Yeah. So I don't, there's a comment from Mr. Deagle, which I saved because I do want to come back to that. I also used to have this problem, or I do still have this problem of the racing brain, don't stop thinking. And I don't meditate because I've always found it I never enjoyed it when I tried it. But I do meditative things. So I have activities that I do that I find calm my brain down, because I'm the type of person who's just always thinking about a million things at the same time. And there's a few activities that I do that I have to put all of my focus on. So I find that doing that helps me to switch my brain off for a little bit. It's not meditating, but it's going to sound really dumb, but I do my own gel nail polish, which is a thing that takes like an hour to do because you've got to do multiple coats and you've got to bake it under a light. So I do my own gel nail polish and I find that very meditative. And I also do beading because it's something that you have to do with your hands and it's quite precise. And I do like really stupid things. But I find that just doing that for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes helps me to calm my brain down. Because I focus on just that task and then everything else just goes away for a little bit.
One of the things that I used to do, it was after I read How to Raise Your Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden. And it was a couple of things. One, he talked about being authentic, that you want to be your real self. And another was you need to accept who you are in the moment. So what I would do before I would go to bed at night is just lay there and just allow whatever was going to come, just come and just accept it, feel it, and deal with it. And I found that very, very helpful. And one of the things that they actually recommend in the other article was being mindful, just focusing on what you're doing when you're doing it. So even brushing your teeth, just focus. You're brushing your teeth. Don't think about anything else. Don't plan your day. See, I'm the opposite. I look at moments like that, or like the other example when they say when you're driving your car, just focus on what you're doing. I automatically think of those as opportunities to think about other things, right? To
Yeah.
not focus on what I'm doing, but to plan, to think, to whatever. Um, so that is something that you can do, is just focus on what you're doing. I think that that kind of helps to calm the mind, center it, and focus it.
But you need to find the task that works for you. So they said brushing your teeth or washing the dishes, and those can work. I find cleaning, not like general dusting and stuff, but if there's something in my house that needs to be deep cleaned, I find that to be very meditative as well. So occasionally when I'm very stressed, you'll just find me deep cleaning something, um, because I find focusing on that task very calming. So you need to find something that works for you and not just, oh, well, they said washing dishes, because I hate washing dishes. And no matter how much I try to focus on them, my mind is always doing something else. Um, there was a comment from Mr. Deagle. How do you change deeply ingrained beliefs?
How do you change deeply ingrained beliefs? So I don't know how deeply ingrained you're talking about, but I believe that you're probably talking about what in cognitive behavioral therapy circles they talk as your core beliefs. These are the ones that are the most ingrained, the deepest. It reminds me, my friend Carlos, when he would be dealing with issues, he said he didn't want to just deal with the surface issue. He used the metaphor of a nest of say hornets or wasps, and he said he wants to kill the whole nest rather than killing the individual bugs or insects or whatever that are coming around. Kill the whole nest. So what I would recommend in order to do that is, first of all, be patient, because those are the hardest to uproot and go away. But you first have to know what they even are. And in order to identify them, I would once again follow the advice of Nathaniel Branden. Pay attention to your feelings, to your emotional reactions to things. And when you do that, you'll start to be able to become cognizant of commonalities among various situations, tie them to what types of beliefs these are likely arising from. But to ultimately uproot them, I would recommend, first, you have to want to do it and you have to be willing to put in the work. Second, read, and then read some more, right? There's an abundance. I mean, you could just probably go to ChatGPT and say, what are some good books, cognitive behavioral therapy books on uprooting in altering core beliefs. Books, there's When Panic Attacks is a great book by David Burns. The New Mood Therapy by the same author, David Burns. The Psychology of Self-Esteem, a bunch of stuff by Nathaniel Branden. But the point is to just read a lot of these books, do the exercises that are in them, and that will be a big help. And just repetition, just keep challenging these thoughts, compare them to reality, what's actually occurring like, for instance, it's said that something like 95% of what we worry about never happens, right? So I find that to be true, and I unintentionally tested it when I used to do thought reports to track my thinking errors that I was committing. And then I noticed about the worry that none of this stuff is ever happening. I'm just worrying about it. My girlfriend, she worries whenever we're going to go on a trip. She's worried about traffic, or we're going to get stuck, where it's going to be cold, it's going to be this, going to be that. But the thing is none of that ever happens. She and I have been to San Diego twice. We've been to Washington, D.C. We've been to Pennsylvania. We've been to Massachusetts, Boston. And we've also been to New York City, driving into Manhattan. I don't even know how many times. And it's always fine. And I tell her, okay, even if we get stuck in traffic, okay, so what? What does that matter? So it's check your beliefs against reality. Repeatedly do that and see if what you're worried about is actually occurring, or if what you believe is actually true. For instance, let's just say that you are a sexist, right? And you say, well, I just don't think women are all that smart. I'm convinced of that. Women just aren't that smart. They can't really work in the workforce and do well. We'll check that against reality. Pay attention to real women that you come in contact with on a regular basis. Watch interviews with women. See if this is true. Google studies on IQ tests. That's something else you can do. So my point is, whatever the belief is, check it against reality. So you want to read, you want to check it against reality, and you want to engage in a lot of repetition.
I have something to add when it comes to...
No, you can't add anything.
Well, tough. I'm going to.
All right. Well, if you insist. I mean,
when it comes to identifying what your core belief is, because this is actually more challenging than people realize. Ask yourself why a lot. So if you have a thought, ask yourself, why do I think that? And then keep asking yourself why until you get to something that is just because that's just the way it is. And when you get to something that is because that's just the way it is, that's a core belief.
They have something that's called the downward arrow technique. And I think that that's what you're talking about in cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. I'm looking for you to add.
What I've never done cognitive behavioral therapy, so I don't know.
But you're a smart woman.
Yes, I think so. It's like a lot of people have core beliefs that they don't even realize are core beliefs. So one of the big ones is that all rich people are evil. All billionaires are evil. This is just commonly accepted fact. And then money is the root of all evil. And then that thought makes people feel guilty about earning too much money, and about having too much, and that makes them feel bad. So just keep asking yourself why, and identifying core beliefs and changing them is not something that happens overnight or even in a couple of months. Like, you have to sit and actively work on figuring out what they are, and then figure out why these core beliefs aren't true and what you want to replace them with. And then when you catch yourself thinking a thought that contradicts what you want your new core belief to be, or you find yourself thinking a thought that is in line with that core belief that you want to change, then correct yourself actively. And again, I'm
trying to find a good shareable link here of the downward arrow technique, but here it is. Okay.
Oh, Robert Naser says, what would I have to believe for this to be true? Yes.
So I've shared an article. I don't know if the article's good because I obviously haven't had a chance to read it, on the downward arrow technique. So I would recommend at least taking a look at it, and hopefully it can help. I just shared it to X and to Facebook. Mr. Deagle says, I recently saw an objectivist claim that women can't feel happiness. Sexism exists even. Yeah, I don't. That, I mean, I don't. Not even is this person who would say such a thing. Like, to say, well, that's not an objectivist. Like, is it even like a conscious human that would say such an idiotic thing?
What's his name? Scott, by any chance? Yeah, that's ridiculous. But I mean, there's plenty of those weird, bizarre claims
Oh,
floating around.
Charles too. I've heard of this guy before. I also heard that he disappeared. I don't know, Mr. Deagle, but that's obviously a very dumb thing to say. Can
Yeah,
we agree on that?
I think everyone can agree.
Everyone can
Um,
agree. Now I have to find the other article that we were on before.
you know what else I found really helped me to um, just improve my general state of contentment in life?
Staring at
Um,
me.
yes, definitely helps a lot. No, but seriously, so gratitude journaling. Gratitude journaling when I was younger, like in my 20s and really going through, hard times. Um, Gratitude journaling and making it a point in the morning and in the evening to write down 10 things that I was grateful for that day. That changed my life. And it sounds like such a silly thing, but it really makes you think, and it makes you think about all of the good things in your life and focusing on what is good instead of all of the negative stuff is really good. And it's a routine that helps you get into a more positive mindset because you're thinking every morning and every evening, you're spending time thinking about what's good in your life instead of, waking up and stressing about the day or going to bed and thinking about everything that sucked during the day. So that was a habit that really improved my life, and I recommend it to everyone.
Charles too is back, but he doesn't seem like someone who has a lot of women in his life. I don't know. I don't know the guy. Never met him. But so they give us some tips on mental hygiene here. Uh, one is manage your emotions and learn self control, that we already talked about. Manage expectations and set concrete objectives. Maintaining motivation and being perseverant is fundamental to surpass ourselves, which is why we need to set achievable goals so we do not become disheartened. We don't have to abandon our dreams, but we need to manage expectations and reality. Yes, you want to set your goals that are realistic and achievable. And somebody said this earlier about having routine, but having purpose. That's
Mm,
your thing? Okay, that's blowing in the background.
it's a curtain.
It's the
Yes.
curtain. Yeah. Okay. So having purpose, having goals, that certainly is helpful because it helps to keep the mind off of things that don't matter. Think positively and be on the lookout for negative emotions. Absolutely. When your negative emotions, now what I'm talking about when I say this, anyways, is not if you're sad that you've lost a loved one or you've had a breakup or you've seen somebody suffer and that upsets you, but just unjustified anger or what's the word I'm looking for, disproportionate anger or constantly moping and just being miserable about things. Those are the types of emotions you want to look out for because they are harmful to you.
Yes. But so two things, specifically about motivation. I think motivation is important, but I think what's potentially more important is discipline, because a lot of people say, well, how do I find the motivation to do something? And that can actually prevent people from doing what they need to do because they're like, well, I'm waiting to have motivation.
I hate that.
Motivation can be important, but the most important thing is discipline, because you're not always going to have the motivation. Sometimes you just need the discipline.
Where's the German Shepherd in the background that I'm hearing about?
Oh, she's in her bed.
Ah, I see. Okay. All right. All right. All right.
Um, and then there was another thing that I was going to say. Negative emotions. Don't. Something that I've seen a lot of people do is because they hear that you should control your negative emotions, they take that in they take that way too far. And if they have a negative emotion, they're like, "No, I don't. It doesn't exist." And they like almost pretend that it's not real, it's not happening. If you have a negative emotion, you need to acknowledge it and acknowledge why it is true or why it is not true, and not just pretend it's not there. You're not just slapping a smiley face sticker on your life. We don't need we don't need toxic positivity to say like everything is fine and no negative
Denial
emotions.
is what you're talking about. You don't want to
Yeah,
be
well,
in denial.
yeah, but it goes beyond denial, and it goes into, if you're ever angry, that you should never be angry, or you should never be sad. And it's fine sometimes to be angry, and it's fine sometimes to be sad. Like, acknowledge that you are, and figure out why, work through it, and don't just pretend it's not happening.
Good point. So, what, you may be asking, does all this have to do with everyday ethics? Well, if you recall, as I'm sure you do, the purpose of ethics and the standard of ethics, what we're trying to learn how to do, is this is an egoistic ethic. It's the ethics that was developed by Ayn Rand, by and large. And it's all about doing what's best for yourself. It's all about your own personal flourishing, your own personal happiness, and taking care of your means of survival. Your mind is paramount. If you don't have a properly functioning mind, you cannot flourish, you cannot achieve happiness, you ultimately cannot be ethical. So, this is of vital importance. You must take care of your mind, and you must make sure that it's operating properly. And that way, you'll be able to think clearly, think more logically, make better decisions, and ultimately be a happier person. So that is why I chose this topic for today, because we need to understand that ethics is not primarily about our relationships with other people.
I had a thought and then I got distracted by the coughing. Yeah. If you are constantly thinking negative thoughts and you're constantly thinking life is unfair and you're always unhappy and you're constantly focusing on the negative and you don't trust anybody, you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve in life. You're going to spend your life being miserable, and miserable people don't often achieve their goals.
I was hoping that you would pick up on Race's comment that I posted to the screen. Race Jacobson said, virtuous actions flow from clear and rational thoughts. Good point, Race. Did you just say true?
Yes.
No, we need better commentary. You can't just come out and say true. I mean, you know, we need you to be like, oh, wow, Mr. Jacobson, that's a very insightful comment. Would you like to elaborate on that for us? Maybe type a little something else up that we can share with the audience.
Wow, Race, that was a deeply insightful comment. I would really appreciate it if you would elaborate a little bit, type us up a little comment there.
All right, we're running out of time. We're headed to the weekend. Tomorrow, for subscribers to Mark Pellegrino's Patreon, we're doing Self-Made Soul. Tomorrow, we're going to be dealing with existentialism and psychology. We also are having a Capitalist Corner Patreon tomorrow, where we will be discussing Ayn Rand's essay, Our Cultural Value Deprivation. So it should be a wonderful day. A lot of great discussions. I hope everybody's gotten something out of this discussion. I know that I have. Persephone, say something nice to the audience.
Audience, you are all very wonderful. Race, I shan't ask my German Shepherd for its opinion because she is a neurotic mess.
Please, I just want to thank Persephone for. By the way, we are now available on Spotify with the Capitalist Corner show. So if you want to listen in podcast mode, we're over there. And also the new background that I have, where Persephone has put, I believe that's Socrates.
It is Socrates, yes.
We love Socrates. All right, everybody, have a great and wonderful weekend. I hope to see you tomorrow. If not, I can't wait to see you. Oh, Monday, there will be no everyday ethics. I'm sorry. Monday, there will be no everyday ethics. There will be Capitalist Corner, and there most likely will be something released later in the day, a recording that I hope you all will watch. Okay, everybody. See you. See you. Well, I'll just see you. Until I see you, remember to be ethical.
Also, check out the Patreon.
Check out the Patreon.